together. As we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots, sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only waits us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Only another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All above the Petty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Petty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
For the love of Cheetos, I swear to goodness, one of these days, today is a Monday kind of day, but I do actually hope that I am audible because I went ahead and scheduled, and I will be reminding you guys of this, and I have it on the community page, but I did go ahead and schedule a set of infusions. So that's not this coming week, but the week after. I will be gone for about 3 days, maybe the whole week. I don't know. There will probably be a lot of, slower streams or videos that I'll do when I'm feeling good and then put them out. But let's get back to the trial and see if at any point there's going to be some evidence occurring in this trial.
Hearing it said about me living under a different name, trying to hide it, well, definitely lie.
And that's why I'm asking you about that, because I'm not going to go off some speculation from the internet.
Okay. Just for the record,
12 minutes and 31.
Your Honor, for the record, that stopped at 12 minutes and 31 seconds. And we'll proceed with testimony. Now, Detective Shepard, we've just heard the interview. That was the interview you've been testifying about?
Yes, sir.
And at the conclusion of that interview, was the defendant free to go about his way?
Yes, he was.
All right. Did you get the answers that you were looking for, or the information that you were looking for related to the saw in question?
I did.
And what about information you inquired as to whether or not he actually looked for his wife?
I did.
And as you were investigating the case, was that just looking at what you would expect? Was that what you expected Christopher Wolfenbarger to do? Did you expect him to look for Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Absolutely. It's a red flag, a giant red flag for me. I would expect for a husband to look for their missing wife, and that's what he did not do.
All right. Now that interview is in 2021, and do you continue your investigation after that?
Yes.
And in the course of continuing your investigation, do you attempt to continue to interview witnesses?
Yes.
At this point, had you located Thomas Dixon?
Yes.
All right. And what year did you locate Thomas Dixon?
I just recently was able to sit down with Thomas Dixon.
Okay. Well, specifically in 2021, where you had to locate Thomas Dixon?
No, he had a lot of different addresses, and every address that I checked, he was not there anymore.
Okay. So you looked in multiple places. Is that your testimony?
All over North Georgia, yes.
And that was at the beginning of in 2021 when you started?
Correct.
And your testimony is that very recently you spoke to Thomas Dixon. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And when did you actually speak with Thomas Dixon?
I would say maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Did that impact your ability to proceed with the investigation, being able to locate certain witnesses in particular, Mr. Dixon?
Yes, it's always a good impact when I can actually get hands on a witness and talk to him face to face.
Did you make any attempts to locate Miss Diane Perot?
I did.
And were you successful in that?
I believe Ms. Perot is deceased.
Okay. Is that what your investigation revealed?
Correct.
And is that one of the common issues the police department faces when investigating cold cases?
Yes, every year that the case gets cold, it's potential to lose witnesses and involved parties.
Okay. At any point, do you present your investigation to the DA's office for an indictment decision?
Yes.
And what year did you do that?
Just recently,
Howdy,
last
howdy.
year.
Okay, the 2024?
Correct.
And after an indictment, what happens after an indictment?
So once a warrant has been obtained and it's been indicted, of course, we assign all of our outstanding warrants to our fugitive unit.
Okay. And you familiar with Sergeant O'Hare?
Correct.
And who was Sergeant O'Hare in relationship to this case?
He was the investigator in charge of apprehending Christopher.
Okay. Do you look to see how a person responds when they're confronted or confronted by law enforcement, in particular with an arrest warrant?
Yes.
Do you look to see if that person is cooperative or if they attempt to get away or do something else?
Yes.
And did you have an impression in this case?
Well, yes, Chris was not forthcoming when they served a warrant, but it also took until 2024 until the state thought that they had enough evidence. And going by what the state has had and then lost or not been able to recover, I don't know how this case got past the indictment stage. I do understand that you can indict a ham sandwich and you don't have to be as thorough, but there's enough. Yes, does Chris look sus? Are there sus things? But there obviously wasn't enough to convince a jury.
Whether or not the defendant was cooperative?
No, the defendant was not cooperative in this case.
What do you mean by that?
I understand that at the time of his apprehension, he hid in a makeshift cupboard behind an appliance inside of his home. It took him maybe 30 minutes to find him.
And why was that significant?
Well, it's significant because he obviously made an attempt to evade arrest. And I thought that was kind of odd because it's almost like it was anticipation that it was coming.
One moment, Judge.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Samuel, can you open the door?
Oh, Lord. Another sidebar. So I have figured out why this particular attorney always looks so much shorter. There is kind of a step up over there, and he chooses to never go on the step up while the state's attorneys always do. So I was always like, is he just incredibly short? But I figured it out. So if you were, behind the curve like me, he is not exceptionally short. There is a step up there.
We're going to break for lunch. So it's 12:56. We're going to call that 1 o'clock and then try and get you back in here as close to 2 p.m. as we can. Thank you all very much. We are on break for lunch.
2 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
All righty. And it doesn't look like they have any talking before or out of the presence of the jury. I do love when we get to speed forth.
No.
Domestic violence expert.
That's correct, Your Honor. I assume she's the next witness, is that right? Or no?
Maybe. No. It'll be Hawthorne, I believe. It might be the next episode.
Is Hoptold the medical examiner?
No, Hawthorne is
Anthropologist.
the forensic dentist.
Okay, but presumably that will be relatively quick.
It is quick, Judge, but just for the court's aware, it is quick, but the defense agreed to allow us to present her via Zoom. There was some issues with her travel.
Okay.
So I want to send her the Zoom link now.
Okay.
And then we just need to let the court know to let her on when she's ready.
Sure.
James will be today.
That's what we expect.
We believe so, yes.
I'll assume we are making good use of our time then.
Okay.
We talked about this last Monday, I think, in our pretrial motions hearing. The issue is whether Dr. James, Dr. Rosa James, kind of what the scope of her testimony is going to be. She doesn't know any of the facts of this case. I think we all agree with that. She hasn't seen any police reports. She hasn't interviewed any witnesses. She is, I've heard different phrases used, but a witness who has no knowledge of the facts and instead is simply going to educate the jury about, I don't know what, but in general, the behavior of perpetrators and victims of domestic violence. it is my fear that is going to involve hypothetical questions, which will, in effect, serve to educate her about the facts of this case, many of which will be contested, probably, and that it will be, under 403, an improper way of introducing expert testimony. But more importantly, even if it is limited to hypothetical questions, and I don't understand, let me just get to the point, what the bottom line is. What is the final conclusion?
Yeah, that does kind of make no sense. Again, I think that in a case where they had, and you do have established, maybe a pattern that there was DV in this particular marriage. I do think that is established. But I think that anything that this expertologist on DV could opine about is fairly relative, basic knowledge that we learned in after school specials on the very special, very important Blossom episode. And then No One Would Tell with Candace Cameron Bure, and Fred Savage, I think. So we do understand those dynamics, but I don't think that those dynamics are so groundbreaking or revolutionary that people don't have kind of a general understanding that there can be a lot of factors that make victims of domestic violence not want to go against their perpetrator. I feel like this has been something that isn't new. I do feel like, in the 70s, in the 80s, this is probably a novel concept, but why they have someone coming up to opine on things that are kind of, I would say, layperson knowledge just doesn't seem appropriate to me. But I'm not a legalologist. I am sure any number of the lawyers that covered this case could give you a legal reason that this is totally for real, purposeful. I just find it to be dumb.
That the expert's going to say, if she's going to say, it is not uncommon for people to ask TPOs and then withdraw them. And here's how the cycle of violence, often works. I'm not saying it's true in this case, but this is in fact a phenomenon known to doctors, sociologists, psychologists, whatever. First of all, we already have the testimony. We just had that from the detective who said, it's not uncommon at all for people to withdraw their TPOs. But fine, if they want to do that one more time, I'm less concerned. I'm not going to say I'm not concerned, but I'm less concerned. What really concerns me is what we got a taste of last Monday when she started talking about the threat of leaving increases the lethality rate by whatever the percentage was. And even more importantly, any suggestion that there is a history of abuse here other than what's in evidence is completely inappropriate. Right? I mean, we can't be having this witness either answering hypothetical questions or talking about the cycle of violence. I mean, if you just look at her chart, it's over and over and over again. You get beaten up, you complain, then you make love. Then you get beaten up again, and you make love, and you complain. And there's no evidence of that in this case. And I can't understand why the prosecution should be allowed to put up an expert to pretend it is the evidence in this case, and then to get an opinion that this is common in the field. My basic argument is that under 404B, that's essentially propensity evidence anyways. You're essentially saying he did it in the past, and therefore he's guilty of this case. And as we talked about last week, the law on this subject has become crystal clear that the prosecution has to be specific and precise about the reason that the evidence is being offered of prior acts of violence. If it's a self-defense case, it can be offered to prove it's unlikely self-defense because he used the same defense last time. If it's a lack of knowledge case, it wouldn't really be applicable here. If it is a
Sorry, sir. If you could step outside. Thank you. That's okay. That was the record will reflect that was the witness who's on the stand. I've asked you to step outside.
That's fine.
You're telling me the cop doesn't know that when they're having, legal disputes, he's not supposed to be in there? Are you kidding me? Do rules matter in Georgia? I know we don't have these calendars or these planner books, in Georgia, but do we not have like rules? Tammy, not too much. You simply, basically the cold case detective from the district attorney's office was talking about how, Chris's reaction to having the warrant served indicated guilt to him because he hid. and how that reflected poorly on Chris because it seemed like he was guilty is essentially what the state was kind of alluding to. And then they took a break for lunch. We are coming back after break. It looks like the next witness is going to be the forensic dentist or paleontologist that was able to identify Melissa's remains from her dental records through Zoom. And then what they're arguing about currently is that the state would like to present a spousal violence or partner violence expert to kind of answer hypothetical questions and explain to the jury why someone in an abusive relationship would maybe get a protective order and then drop it, how that can kind of cycle through, but with no real knowledge of the case. So that's what the defense is arguing about. While there is evidence in this case that there was an instance of abuse and an incident where a protective order was given in this case, there weren't repeat instances that would allow her to talk about the cycle of abuse that hasn't been proven in the court up to this point in the case. There was that one incident, but there weren't other police reports that could indicate that this was a cycle that Chris and Melissa had been going through. I do think that the defense attorney is making good points, but since we know that the expert was allowed to testify, obviously the state made a good point too. I have found this judge to be very thoughtful, but I have found the state to be woefully ill-prepared and incompetent for the most part.
Or even lack of intent. None of those are issues. This is a whodunit. This is strictly who committed the crime. And even if they have, by preponderance of the evidence or something that would satisfy, the court that's at least admissible evidence that there were some prior episodes of, Apologize. Oh, no, that's okay.
We just didn't know where the noise was coming from. We're all like,
go
ahead.
I lost track, of course, but that was intentional on the DA's part.
Sure, he's absolutely messing with you.
The point is, in a case in which the defendant denies doing it at all, the threshold for similarity and for the admissibility of 404B evidence is far higher. As I said the other day, it has to literally be the mark of zero. You can't say that he denied doing it, but by golly, we're going to prove it wasn't self-defense. Nobody's ever said it was self-defense. They can't say, he denies doing it, but by golly, we're going to prove whatever he did with intent. Or, a course of conduct, which isn't even an accepted one under the Georgia rules anymore. So they just need to be precise now, ahead of time, instead of making me jump up and down with the jury.
What is that?
Your Honor, I apologize. In preparation to get ready, we were setting up the booth, but we're done.
Okay, thank you.
I think you understand my point. If you're going to use it for identity, you have to show only this person could have perpetrated the crime because of his MO. This is the way he operates. He kills people and then he dismembers them. If they had prior incidents of that, then they can certainly put in evidence of prior dismemberments he's committed in order to prove that he is the most likely candidate for being the perpetrator in this case. But other than that, the fact that he allegedly, and I stress that because I don't even know where the evidence is going to come from at this point, that he allegedly scratched her arm, dragged her down the sidewalk on one occasion, and there's been inconsistent evidence that there's no other arrests, no other contact with police, no hospitalizations, no doctor's reports, no pictures. There's nothing else other than the one TPO in July of 1998. So I think the DA should be obligated to preview what she plans to do and make sure that it's acceptable to the court.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Samuel. Ms. Hilton.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. As we discussed last Monday with the testimony of Ms. James, we advised the court that we would be bringing Ms. James up towards the conclusion of the case, or not the conclusion, but towards the end of the case after we believe evidence of violence would be admitted. At this time, Your Honor, the court has not just heard about a July 1998 incident, but the court has heard through the witness Tina Mae Patton about an instance in which she saw her sister come to their job at the Waffle House, that she saw bruises on her sister's neck, that when she asked her sister, either one remembrance is either her sister said it was Chris, or when she asked it was Chris, her sister kind of indicated in some way to confirm that that's who perpetrated that injury on her. We also know that there was a secondary time in which Tina Mae wanted to confront Chris about the abuse he was perpetrating on her sister, and her sister asked her not to approach him in fear of what that may do to him. We also know that there's testimony, and this is the state's position, that this defendant moved her to a community in which she had no familiarity, did not know anyone, which we believe would be a form of isolation. That when they moved to that community, she never spoke to any family, she never spoke to any neighbors, she never spoke to anyone there, so she was pretty much just in the house. I believe Miss Dorothy Jones or Dorothy Cooley.
Okay, but that could be for different reasons. I'm sure people at my church who barely see me because I'm usually, resting on Sundays, probably assume that, I am, a heathen or something. I mean, they know me. They know that getting around and out and about is sometimes not easy for me. But I mean, if you just go by the fact that I don't talk to a lot of my neighbors, you could make the same assumptions about me when I'm just a happy inside cat. So I don't like this use of she isn't, talking to the neighbors. Now, again, it could be an indication of isolation, but these could be's are a real stretch, because she could have been an inside cat. Maybe she didn't like his friends. Maybe she didn't like living there and she just didn't want to talk to anyone. Maybe, who knows, many things, but because we don't know, you can't just posit that that only your theory is correct.
Testified herself that she didn't even know her name, never spoke to her, even though Mr. Wolfenbarger had a relationship or a friendship of such with Ms. Cooley, and we believe that is evidence of isolation. We know
evidence of her not being there,
and I think that's an argument that they can have. Additionally, we have evidence that Ms. Dorothy Cooley heard arguments in their home, that even though she tried to change her testimony on the stand, what she said at one point in time in her testimony is that she would hear her screaming. She also noticed or saw.
Well, if the DV expert had not examined the victim beforehand, and then the expert testimony of statistics would not only be disingenuous, but prejudicial. Yeah. The state has basically given her no access to any facts. So she is basically going in there as an expert who understands maybe more of the social and underlying mental health issues that cause, maybe the cycle of abuse. But there has been, again, this is just not kosher, in my opinion. And that Tammy, introversion is totally me. I'm an indoor cat and my car becomes indoor when I go out. Yeah. So, a lot of people probably think I'm cold and aloof. I'm just not as comfortable all the time in social settings. I'd much rather be in my home. And add to that, the fact that loud noises can sometimes really bother me now. And that's the other thing. Look, I don't expect the world to change because my tolerances for some things have changed. Like, I don't expect everyone to stop, doing 4th of July fireworks because now sound hurts me. I don't care. I think that would be stupid. But I don't generally put myself in places with loud noises anymore because I respect that it doesn't bother people. People are extroverts, some of them, and they like going out and having a fun time. If I don't like that, then I just don't put myself in those occasions versus, going out there and complaining and making everyone change because of me. I don't get that mentality. I really don't. So I don't like these assumptions.
Miss Wolfenbarger with a black eye. Under her eye, she was wearing glasses, but she did see markings of a black eye. So there is evidence of physical abuse, We know that she also told her mother about the 1998 incident, about the dragging of her. So we know that there is indication of physical abuse. We believe that that information in and of itself shows that there was a pattern of abuse such that Ms. Rosa James could testify as to the domestic violence dynamics. What are certain signs in that pattern and control? And the jury can make a decision whether or not they believe that this was a domestic violence relationship. It is the state's position that this was a domestic violence relationship. We believe that there's evidence to present, whether that is in hypotheticals, to Ms. James about some of the events that occurred in Ms. Wolfenbarger's life leading up to her death. We do.
Happy birthday. I don't have a jingly song or anything, but have a great birthday. I understand. Well, I think I stole it from someone, but it's become my own. I am just an inside cat. I like looking at the world outside, but I'd much rather just be inside in my own little area. But I understand that is confusing to many because not everyone would be content to, watch a video or listen to some documentary and cross stitch. I understand how very indoorsy I am. So I do get that I am not or that's not everyone's cup of tea, but have a wonderful birthday. Do something that is fun for you and make no excuses. Hello again, Boosh. This expert's gonna hurt my soul, isn't she?
Believe that she'll be able to testify as an expert in domestic violence that the most dangerous time for a woman is when she attempts to leave that relationship. Believe that there is evidence that Mr. Wolfenbarger, in his own words, will say that in December of 1998 that the two of them were trying to work it out, but I believe her mother testified that she wanted to leave him. I think that testimony came in, I believe so. So there is evidence that she did want to leave him, and such that we think that there is enough information to make it to make Ms. James's testimony relevant before this jury, and it is not excluded by Rule 403, that it is more probative, and that the prejudicial effect is not substantially outweighed in this potential case. And so that is the state's intention at this time. We do believe that, again, that there is evidence. Whether or not the defense counsel, crosses her on it and talks about isolated incidents and things of that nature, I think they very well can. But we believe that there's enough at this juncture, Your Honor. And that would be the state's intention. I think we discussed last Monday, the state would never ask the ultimate conclusion. Based on all this, did he kill his wife? That would never be a question that the state would ask. But we definitely intend to ask questions about statistics regarding the most lethal time for a victim in an abusive relationship. And so that's the state's position, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hilton.
I would point out, we have not been given any statistics. We've not been given any evidence.
We asked for it a week ago. Sorry.
I mean, if she's going to start talking about 85% of all people who want to leave their family get murdered.
I didn't hear Ms. Hilton say that. What I heard Ms. Hilton say was the very broad, generic statement that I've heard from, I think, every DV expert ever, which is that the most dangerous time, that there are particular times in a domestic violence cycle that are particularly dangerous, one of them being when someone has attempted to leave.
Well,
I'm not saying that I'm saying it's admissible right now. I'm just saying I didn't hear her talk about statistics.
She used the word statistics. I didn't make it up. She said she's going to cite statistics. So I don't know if that meant, in general, it's the most common time, or if she's actually going to testify to 87% or whatever.
The general research, I should say, maybe not statistics, but the general research that the most dangerous time for a victim in an abusive relationship is when they're trying to leave.
Okay.
It sounds like, almost kind of like profile evidence, and it's not the way someone gets convicted of being the perpetrator. It may be a good, as one lawyer described it recently, a good sword for proving, this is the perpetrator. If this is, it was intentional as opposed to accidental, or a way to defeat a claim of self-defense. Say, you've beaten her up 30 times, and you're claiming this is self-defense this time, or it was, suicide. You were trying to take the gun away from her. But he's saying he had nothing to do with it. He had nothing to do with the crime. And yet they're going to use this profile evidence of what other people.
Now, we do know that this did not this did not do anything for the jury. The jury still did not convict this man. And I am in no way saying that Chris should have done, or it was justified, whatever, actual pattern of chaos. No one has a right to, oh, good Lord. I probably will. It will probably be next week, though. Good night, nurse. This woman. Just stop whining, do your job on the stand. I swear, this court with Mosey and wasting time.
Based on some similarity, I guess. I mean, I know what she's going to do because she did it the other day with me. You go through the wheel and you say, oh, you don't have to have all these things. You have to have a couple or a few or some number of them. And, we get into this argument where everybody's a domestic abuser, under her theory. If you take the wheel out, wherever I did with it, and start going through it, everybody satisfies. You can go through it and say, there was no evidence of this, no evidence of this, no evidence of this, no evidence of that. She says, doesn't matter.
And that goes to the weight and credibility that a finder of fact should afford to her testimony, assuming that she's allowed to testify.
It is unfair. It is 403. It is the jury's going to hear she's the most qualified person on the planet to be offering these opinions, and we're apparently nitpicking over things that she has studied and the statistics and all that.
Understood, Mr. Samuel. So what I heard from the state is the identification of at least, I think, three instances from which either there is actual testimony of an event like the matter in July that I think led to the TPO, or there are facts from which a reasonable inference for purposes of preponderance might be drawn that there was some abuse. And so as a result of that, I do believe that the state has made there are facts that they can ask the expert about. I do want to put one issue to bed, and Mr. Samuel and I discussed it at the pre-trial conference last Monday as well, and that is that 404B has been thrown around a little bit, and I think I understand your argument currently to be that it's 403 prejudicial, but the argument that you're making, I still stand by that it is intrinsic to the nature of this relationship, and that is what distinguishes it from this sort of argument that might not fly, that if Mr. Wolfenbarger, if there was evidence that Mr. Wolfenbarger had abused someone else before, that would exponentially increase the likelihood that he had abused Melissa Wolfenbarger. That's not what we have here. I'm specifically looking at Hughes versus State, which is a 2021 decision of the Supreme Court, talks about similar evidence in terms of an incident where the defendant was alleged to have slashed the tires of the victim, and the defendant ultimately argued that was inadmissible 404, that it was prejudicial, and that it was error to allow it in. And Justice Fogg said it was both intrinsic and evidence of prior difficulties. And so I think it's relevant. I think it's admissible. And under 403, I don't believe that it is overly prejudicial. Now, having said that, I think we talked about this on Monday as well. I don't think that the state intends to go out on that limb, right, and ask the witness questions like, the ultimate issue and other things. But I did hear a concerning willingness by that victim to walk out onto that ledge all by herself. And so I just want to make sure that you have cautioned your witness to understand the parameters of what's allowable for her to testify to.
I have, but I will again prior to her testimony when she gets into the building.
Understood. The remainder, Mr. Samuel, as I said, your other concerns about the scope of her testimony, the veracity, reliability, et cetera, I think goes to, again, the weight and credibility to be given to her testimony. And so that's going to be my ruling regarding the ability of that witness to testify and to base hypothetical questions on facts that are actually in evidence regarding 2 to 3 either specific instances or facts from which a jury could infer, a fact finder could infer an abuse.
Can I just ask, let's assume you ask the hypothetical questions. Assume 3 incidents and describe them with specificity and accuracy. What is your conclusion? What are we inviting her to conclude? You are dealing with an abuser. And once we've made that finding, Katie bar to the door. At that point, we can do anything we want to do once we've identified him as an abuser. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's assume he did it 3 times. What is she going to conclude? Is it anything you could do? It wouldn't make a difference if it was 3 or 30. At that point, everything I want to offer as an expert, I can offer.
Ms. Hilton? So I think my understanding and Mr. Samuel's understanding clearly is that this expert would be offered to testify about what an abusive relationship looks like, and how people behave in that relationship. Is that fair?
Yes.
To educate the jury about those issues.
Yes.
Beyond that, Mr. Samuel's question about what actual opinions or conclusions do you expect that this expert will draw regarding this case? Or is she just educating the jury generally about what an abuse relationship looks like?
Generally as to what an abuse relationship looks like, and if there are could certain hypothetical facts be consistent with coercion or power and control. So
Hypothetical facts for which there's a reasonable factual basis in the trial?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so that is the extent, but she's not coming, we're not asking her any, is this domestic violence? It's more if a person brings someone to a neighborhood and they don't have any family there, could that be considered isolation? So things of that nature, factors that one could maybe conclude at some point in time or that we'll be able to discuss. But
Yeah, but it could also be that that was close to his job, which again isn't probably a fact that the defense wants to, belabor the point since the remains were also close or found close to his job and his home. But that being said, it doesn't have to be isolation. And it seems like this expert is very much of the opinion that if given any behavior, it could have, abusive connotations instead of innocent ones. It does seem like this expert is willing to demonize men just based on the way, the defendant or the defense is dealing with it.
that's the state's intention.
Mr. Samuel, I understand and imagine that you would not be satisfied with that response.
Well, a few minutes ago, it's the first time I ever heard there's some theory that part of the whole, maybe as you're describing it, intrinsic conduct was moving to Atlanta, to get away from her family, which is what, the other evidence was. But now we're going to have this witness say, oh, if you've moved to Atlanta, to a home that their family owns, right?
Right.
I mean, they own this apartment complex, the duplex.
Which are all facts that you can cross-examine the witness about.
But that's the whole point, is she doesn't know any facts. So I got to take her hypotheticals and say, let me pull a few threads on these hypotheticals. How about if you found out that the home to which she moved, was actually a home owned by the family? And she says, it doesn't make any difference.
I understand. My ruling still stands, Mr. Samuel. I'm going to let the witness testify. I think that your concerns relate to the weight and credibility that a fact finder should afford to her testimony, beyond the fact that, as I've said a couple of times now on the record, and Ms. Hilton has assured me, is that, we're going to make sure that our hypothetical questions are tied to the facts in this record, even if they're conflicted facts, as long as they've been established by somebody in this case, number one, and number two, that we're going to make sure that this witness is not expounding in a way that would be problematic in terms of the ultimate issue or offering opinions that there are no facts to back up, even if they're conflicted facts. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, that's my ruling, Mr. Samuel. Anything else that we need to take up before we have the jury back in to conclude the detective's testimony?
No.
Okay. Ms. Hilton, you ready?
I think Mr.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fawcett, are you ready? No, I understand. I just was making sure both sides are ready. Deputy, can you get our witness back, please? And then we're ready for the jury.
All right, let's speed on through because this is like the slowest jury.
To remind you that before we took our lunch break, you were sworn in and that you continue to be under oath, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Samuel, questions for this witness?
Detective Shepard, my name is Don Samuel. I don't believe we've ever met before.
I've met you in passing before.
This is the second one to say that. You joined the cold case squad in 2020, did I get that right?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And when did you pick up Calhoun's reports and start looking at this case?
2021.
Okay. So in 2021, we are essentially 23 years after, for example, the first thing you testified about, I think, was the July TPO, right?
Correct.
Okay. Obviously, you weren't there then. You didn't have, contemporaneous evidence of what happened on that day, right? You didn't interview any of the witnesses.
That's correct.
That led to the TPO, correct? Correct. And when I say TPO, I'm talking about a temporary protective order.
That's correct.
And you introduced some exhibits this morning. Yes, this morning, dealing with that TPO, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what you learned from reading Calhoun's reports and what led you to think the TPO was important was that there was an argument, correct? There was a dispute?
Yes, there was a physical dispute that resulted in Melissa Wolfenbarger's injuries.
It resulted in?
Her injuries?
Okay. Did you interview someone named Perrone who was involved in that?
No, I never got a chance to interview Ms. Perrone.
Okay. And did you talk to the law enforcement officer who went to the scene whose name is Sutton, I believe.
No, every officer during that time, by the time I received the case, pretty much retired. But I was referring to his actual police reports that were documented.
Well, he came here. It wasn't that hard to find him. He came here and testified. Did you ever talk to him?
No, sir, I never was able to talk to officers.
Were you aware that he said he never saw any bruises on her back?
The only thing I had to refer to is it wasn't the actual police report that he documented when the incident occurred.
Right. Well, he didn't document what he saw. And when he testified, he said, I didn't lift up her shirt or look at anything on her back. I didn't see any. In fact, he said she had some bruises on her legs.
To counsel testifying.
I'm cross-examining him.
Yeah, I'm going to overrule the objection.
I have no direct knowledge to his testimony when he testified in here.
So if in fact his testimony is different than what you said this morning, obviously you don't question his credibility when he came here and testified under oath.
I think Officer Sutton will have to be the one to speak on that. As far as his credibility, I can refer to the documents that were documented in the official police report.
Okay. And do you know from the official police report whether the officer or anybody interviewed Mr. Wolfenbarger that night?
Not sure. I don't have any reports that stating that either.
Or Mr. Perone that night?
There are no police reports that's documenting that day.
Okay. So you have Sutton's police report, which is inconsistent with the testimony he gave to the jury, and that's it as far as what led to the temporary protective order.
Again, I can't testify to Officer Sutton's testimony that he testified in here. Only thing I have to go by is what he documented in his police report.
Okay. All right. Now, as a result of whatever happened,
Georgia, for cereals, how much fluoride do you put in your water? What in the hell is wrong? Did y'all like just take this and not decide to interview anyone until 4 years later? What is going on?
that day in July, something like 22nd, right, 1998, Ms. Wolfenbarger was encouraged to take out a TPO, correct?
Yes, after she was assaulted and dragged by Christopher Wolfenbarger and received the injuries. Usually when there's a domestic dispute, we always refer to the victim in that domestic. That's an option that they can go and seek as a temporary protective order for further protection.
Can I ask you to do me a favor?
Yes,
when
sir.
I ask you a question, you can answer yes or no. Okay?
Cool. Okay.
All right?
Yes, sir.
If you think it's a deceptive answer and you need to explain it, that's fine. But, you don't know what happened that night. You just know what's in the police report, right?
Correct. Only.
Oh my goodness, sir. I get what this witness is doing, adding that he dragged her and all of that. Georgia, that might explain. This lawyer, just do your job and make him look like an idiot. You're making the Georgia Police Department look like an idiot. He's making himself look like an idiot by not even having, talked to the reporting officer. So, and the fact that the officer testified to something completely different. Whether he answers yes or no, don't make a big deal of it. You look like a doofus.
The thing I know is what's documented in the police report.
Okay. By the way, did you even try to find Officer Sutton?
I have the official police reports that I can refer to, and that's usually what happens. A lot of cold cases, we don't reach out to those the officers that officially responded to the first scene. We go by the police reports.
Okay. So at any rate, it was customary to refer Ms. Wolfenbarger to get a TPO, correct? A temporary protective order.
Yes, sir. Anytime there's a domestic dispute and the victim of that domestic dispute.
Sir, I just asked you a yes/no question. She was referred to get a TPO, correct?
Yes, she was correct.
You want to make a speech every time I ask you a question, or just say yes or no if you can, all right?
Are you asking me, sir?
Not really.
Jesus Christ. They're both insufferable. I will pull this trial right over. I am in no mood. Sniper Hunter, yes. And I don't approve of anyone, male or female, getting abused in their relationship. That being said, I also don't agree with accusing someone of something as monstrous as this, and then not having the evidence to back it up. And I'm not defending Chris. I think he wasn't a good husband, wasn't a good, wasn't a stable marriage. I don't give Chris any leeway on that. I think if they had brought him up on DV charges, we could look at the evidence and conclude that this was probably not a good relationship. That being said, there's also not enough evidence to support that this was an overriding pattern. I don't know. And I don't think anyone wants to, stand up for anyone who lays hands on anyone else, but I do want to have facts and evidence because these are very serious charges. And I don't think the defense attorney is doing a good job because if your client has been, accused of these monstrous acts, you probably don't want to look like a bully or a jackass.
So she takes out a TPO on what day?
We have to refer to the actual document again if we want to get the exact date. Thank you.
Some of those are not in evidence in full, and you may remember, but you have the date that the TPO is taken out.
As soon as I find a TPO, I can give you the exact date. It looks like it was July 2nd, 1998. July 22nd, I'm sorry.
22nd, okay. And then what a TPO does is, that's just ask the court to set down a hearing, correct?
A TPO is, again, another form of documentation along with the police report, but they document through the court that this person that's filing the TPO needs protection from the person that they're trying to get protection from.
Right, but it has to be followed very quickly by a court hearing, correct?
Well, that depends on the court. Okay. But once it's filed and it's enacted, the person, we have a court hearing, they're served, and at that point they're served with that temporary protective order. They have strict orders not to violate that temporary protective order.
How long did the TPO in this case exist before they went to court for the first time?
Do you have the documents? Okay. It was dismissed on July 29th, 1998.
So about 1 week later, correct?
According to the documents, that's correct.
You have the rule nisi there?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, rule nisi is just a Latin term that lawyers use to say, come to court, right? Show cause, come to court.
Okay.
Right?
I don't speak Latin, but I'm assuming if you're saying that, that's correct.
I appreciate your confidence in me. So they go to court, and
I appreciate your confidence in me. That was perfect snark, but I don't like him. He's such a douche that I don't want to smile at him.
the TPO is dismissed, correct?
That is correct.
And that doesn't happen without a judge sitting on the bench, correct?
Correct, and usually when it's dismissed, one of the parties are not showing up. Just like when any court case, when the party doesn't show up, it's dismissed.
But every party's here for this. For the TPO dismissal, everybody's in court.
Okay.
In fact, were you aware from talking to people that the judge encouraged them to talk to each other? They talked to each other, and then the judge dismissed the TPO.
I'm not surprised in court hearings.
I didn't ask if you were surprised. I asked, are you aware that that's what happened?
I'm not aware.
Well, did you ever interview anybody about what happened in that court proceeding?
It's pertaining to the TPO?
Yes.
No, sir. The TPO is not related. It's not part of my murder investigation. It documents a first form of interaction that documents the domestic violence between Christopher Wolfenbarger and Melissa. As far as a homicide investigation, it's not relevant going to the homicide. So there was no reason for you to follow up for it pertaining to this domestic.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Wait, your entire case is built on the fact that they had a DV relationship. So the fact that there was a temporary protective order is in no way related to your case?
are you saying that all the domestic things involved in July 1998 has nothing to do with the investigation of the homicide?
The July 1998 incident is very critical, and it documents and it landmarks a tumultuous relationship between Christopher and Melissa. So it is very important.
You just said it's not relevant. I'm confused between your last two answers. You said you didn't follow up anything about the background of it, anything about what happened in court, anything about any of that, because it's not relevant to the homicide, but then you say it's the landmark most important thing.
That is correct. So when you document an incident domestic, it's documented. is a homicide investigation. We continue with our homicide investigation. We have reliability when we refer to the police reports, which is official documents. That's documented in time. There's no need for me to follow up on the domestic side because we have it clearly documented in the police reports. My investigation continues on the homicide on.
You don't disagree, though, that even the documents show that the judge approved the dismissal of the TPO. The judge signs it.
And these are legal documents, and I definitely approve of it.
Okay. You then talked about having interviewed Mr. Wolfenbarger in, the first time was in 2021, so now we're 23 years later after the TPO. 23 years after the TPO, you interview him on May 5th, and I think we listened to that tape, correct?
Correct.
2021?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have anything else at this point between then and 2021, right?
As far as that pertains to what?
Your direct contact.
No, that's the first time I came in contact with Christopher.
Okay.
That's correct.
And you meet with him, and you talk to him, and you said it was a voluntary meeting, correct?
Yes, it was in his home, in his living room.
Right. So there was no coercion, no handcuffs. You didn't threaten him, but he voluntarily welcomed you in, gave you a seat at the table, sat down and talked with you.
Correct.
Totally voluntary.
Correct.
Totally cooperative.
Correct.
Okay. And when you were done with that interview, you packed up your tape recorder and you left, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you're continuing to review Calhoun's reports during this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In that tape that we heard this morning, Mr. Wolfenbarger told you about a rocky relationship that he had. In part, he attributes it, or perhaps in large part, he attributes it to Melissa Wolfenbarger's parents, correct?
I don't know if he attributes the rockiness to the parents, but he did admit to having a rocky relationship. I don't know how he would attribute it to his parents.
Not his parents.
Her parents. Correct.
Her parents.
Correct.
You don't think he was attributing it to that?
No, I'm pretty sure he was not attributing to that. I did not interpret that as his parents being, or her parents being a reason why they have a rocky relationship. That's solely between those two.
But clearly he didn't get along with her parents.
He stated that. That's correct.
Okay. Well, I mean, that wouldn't come as a surprise, would it?
I'm not surprised if anybody's in a tumultuous, rocky, violent relationship. I haven't seen a couple that's had a good relationship with any parents involved in that.
Well, but you know that's not what I'm talking about here. Here I'm talking about the fact that his in-laws had murdered 5 people. Do you have in-laws? Are you married? Can you imagine your wife's parents killed 5 people, threw them in a river?
Hang on.
Just one more question. Judge, I'll ask it.
I'm sorry, but it is true. I mean, his in-laws were convicted of taking 5 people's lives. And at this point, this attorney should realize that this witness here is trying to, bury your client. He's not on your side. You're never going to have him, willfully say something in any light that's going to look good, towards Chris. He is always going to be putting in there. Again, this is the cold case that he worked on. This is probably one of the biggest cold cases that he compiled when he was with the DA's office. So you're never going to get him off of this soapbox. So you should just ask your questions and get him off the stand.
Disregard the phone call. I'll withdraw it, but it doesn't. Can I withdraw it?
You can withdraw it.
Does it shock you that someone would say they have a rocky relationship with their in-laws, given what you know are the facts of this case?
I've been doing this job almost a quarter century. I talk to murderers and deal with murders on a daily basis. People from murderers' families. That has nothing to do with what they have to do in their relationship. People can't help who they're related to. Their relationship had nothing to do with their parents.
Okay. So you don't find it surprising that he had a difficult time relating to the family, to the parents who had committed 5 murders, thrown them in a river. There was a baby who died in their home and convicted of concealing the.
Again, these are all things that, yes, the family was chaotic, but he is just looking like a jerk. You are not going to get this witness to ever come off of Chris is the only suspect. Chris is the only suspect. Stop. You are not going to, again, you make logical points, but you are never, and you are making yourself look like a jackass, which is my general biggest thing I try not to do unless I'm intentionally trying to look goofy.
Death, none of those things.
None of that came out in the form of evidence during the course of this trial. The counsels have interjected things that are not in evidence and asking questions based on things that aren't in fact. I'd ask the court instruct counsel not to do that.
Mr. Samuel?
I don't think that's accurate.
I think I've heard the two things that you specifically referred to. I've heard testimony about them in this trial, so I'm going to overrule your objection. Go ahead.
But your position is, it's like Tolstoy said, every unhappy family is unhappy in their own way, right?
So
it's just another unhappy family.
So because Melissa was from this type of family, that gave her permission to be a victim of a domestic violence? I don't think so.
That rhetorical question doesn't answer.
I hate both of them now. Just both of them. I need a puppy kitten break before I tear them both a new one for being stupid jackasses. Again, if you've been in an awful relationship, you know that, it's not great. And both of these jackasses using DV and, people's losses as cudgels to hit each other is pissing me off.
Like a dumpster dive and humans forget how to thrive. Take a break, just you and me, with a puppy and kitten, wild and free. Paws and purrs, let's drift away to a land where tails wag and play. No more noise, just gentle muse in our furry four-legged cruise.
My question.
Again, because she was a victim of her family and their wrongdoings, does not give Christopher or anybody a right to place her in an abusive relationship. So I'm
going to ask you to stop the answer because my question had nothing to do with whether Mr. Wolfenbarger had the right to do anything. And he denies doing anything. So your answer to that, you can give a closing argument if you want, tell the lawyers to go home. Otherwise, I'd ask you to answer my questions.
Can you repeat your question, sir?
Yes. His in-laws were serial killers.
Both of you.
Right? And were throwing family members they were killing, throwing their bodies in the river. Melissa's sister had a baby who died at birth and was thrown in the hamper. And your only answer to me is that doesn't give Chris a right to do something?
Absolutely. Christopher does not have a right to abuse Melissa based off of her family history. That is correct.
What makes you think that he was using that as a right?
I'm just basing this off.
Why the flippin' flapjack giblets in a handbasket are we on this tangent? All right, that's it. I am making the credible and responsible decision before I start cursing to give them 2 seconds before I lose my ish. We are giving them 10 more seconds to prove that they are not jackasses. Otherwise, I'm just going to go to the to the dentologist, the dentist, not dentologist. Well, I think she is a paleontological dentologist. But that being said, I'm going to give them 10 more seconds. Then we're going to fast forward through this because I don't need to be in the middle of two idiots being idiots. I'm about done with this. I get what the police officer is saying, but the lawyer did not ask that question. So in his pursuit of justice for, DV victims, he is intentionally not answering the question. He is using this as a soapbox. Swear to doggone, well, that is because I'm very much considering fast forwarding. If I do stay, I might need swear jar donations because this is going to be all the yellow.
He denies doing anything.
Are you asking me a question?
When was the next time you interviewed Chris?
I have it documented in my reports.
Well, when's the next time you interviewed him?
Can we refer to my reports, the exact date?
You have your reports up there?
No, sir. These are the exhibits that you left.
Okay. Did you interview him again in February of 2023?
Is that documented in my report?
It's documented in my notes.
As soon as I can confirm it's documented in my report, then.
All right. I hate both of them. That's it. Let's get our rage on. Mo's off the chain.
Do you know exactly what page this documentation is going to be in my reports?
Didn't you write the daggone report? Shouldn't you know where the hell the documentation is that you interviewed? Mother of God, pray for these two before I unleash unholy chunkla justice on them in Minecraft.
Detective Shepard, you testified this morning about the different interviews you have. You didn't require counsel to give you page numbers.
Well, if we were going to refer to dates, then I would like that the notes that you took from my case file, if you can give me the exact dates so I can refer to it.
I just told you the date was February 2023.
Okay, on my page and my notes, can you give me the page?
Forget it. Okay. We'll move to a different topic. Are you familiar with the circumstances of Melissa and Chris Wolfenbarger moving to Atlanta?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Do you know when they moved to Atlanta?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you know where they lived when they moved to Atlanta?
They stayed off of Brookline.
Okay. Do you know who owned that property?
I believe Christopher's mother owned that property.
Okay. And had they been to Atlanta before or in the Atlanta area before that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And did Melissa end up having a series of jobs working
Have a great
at
day.
Waffle House when she was in Atlanta?
Correct.
And had friends, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you know that from talking to some of the friends, correct? And talking to people at the Waffle House, correct?
Correct. And also, Christopher's statement was that she worked at the Waffle House and had friends at the Waffle House.
Right. And she wasn't isolated in Atlanta, was she?
I'm not going to say isolated, but there was some, according to the reports, that documented that they didn't always see her, but they always saw Christopher. She was always.
Who's the they in that sentence?
Some of the witnesses that that was interviewed and that's documented in the case file.
Didn't Miss Cooley talk about how they would play all the time? She'd see Chris all the time?
I'm sorry, you say Miss Cooley?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with a Miss Cooley.
Okay.
You're the lead detective. Miss Cooley was the woman who talked about playing on the streets with a K. That being said, she might not be the most reliable person because she denied being picked up for prostitution, but, did cop to a, conviction for solicitation for sodomy. So this has been a cavalcade of FUBAR this entire time.
Did you read Calhoun's reports?
I did.
Did you read them before you came into court
Have
here?
a great
Yes,
lunch,
sir, but I'm
Wolfen.
not familiar with a Miss Cooley.
Okay. How many times did you talk to the folks at the glass company?
In person, I was able to interview them one time.
Okay. And did you determine from talking to Mr. Brock that ultimately Chris was let go because of a car accident involving one of the company's trucks?
Yes, also the saw that he borrowed.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, he also borrowed a saw that he never returned.
He borrowed a saw that he never returned.
Those were their words, correct, that he never returned the saw.
Okay. Those weren't your words this morning. Are you aware of that?
Correct. Mr. Brooks, they said that
Brock.
Mr. Brock, thank you, that he borrowed the saw along with some type of violation that he did with the vehicle. They couldn't prove that he stole the saw, but they let him go as a result.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You talked
Right.
about talking with Thomas Dixon, right?
That is correct.
Okay. He'd spent, 10 years in prison between the time of 99, 2000 and the time you met with him, right?
Yes, he was in and out of prison. At that time, he was currently getting his life together. So that is correct.
And then you talked about the time of Chris's arrest, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you said that he was not cooperative at the time of his arrest, correct?
That is correct. He hid in the cupboard that he built inside of his home, and it took, I believe, fugitive about 30 minutes or plus to find him.
Yeah. He had met with Calhoun how many times? Voluntarily meeting with Calhoun?
It was more than one time.
How many times did he meet with Detective Stott, who was here this morning? Voluntarily, either went to his police department or met with him and was fully cooperative with him?
I have no direct knowledge of Detective Stott or his interactions with Christopher.
Okay. You haven't read his reports?
I have no direct knowledge of Detective Stott or his interactions with Christopher.
Okay, but my question was, have you read his reports?
No, and I don't have any firsthand knowledge of his interactions with Christopher.
Okay. What about Calhoun's reports?
Correct. Yes, I have.
And Mr. Wolfenbarger's cooperation with him?
Yes, yes. I spoke with him multiple times. There is one time that he met with Detective Calhoun, and Detective Calhoun advised that he stole a search warrant that he had, he had to go back and get it from Christopher. That was one interaction that he had with Christopher. So I wouldn't categorize or describe his whole interactions as cooperative.
He stole a search warrant? How does one steal a search warrant?
At the time of his arrest, how many law enforcement officers went to his house?
You have to refer to the fugitive report, and they should have a list of every law enforcement officer that was assisted in that arrest.
Do you know how many people went to the house?
Offhand, I do not know, but usually when you're trying to apprehend a fugitive for murder, there's going to be a great number of law enforcement.
So if Detective O'Hare was in here yesterday or 2 days ago and said there were 30 officers who went to the house, you wouldn't question that, would you?
That sounds about right. And it's always a tactical safe way or a way to apprehend a fugitive that's wanted for murder.
Said most of them were armed with assault weapons.
That sounds about right, correct.
And helmets and gear and flak jackets and all that, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And used a battering ram to get into the... Well, I'm going to ask you, did they use a battering ram to
I
get
have
in?
no direct knowledge on how they made entry into the house. From what I do believe, I do understand that his wife, or at the time what was described his wife, answered the door and she lied and said he wasn't there. And then they was able to make entry and find him. I don't have any knowledge of a ram being used.
Okay. But that is inconsistent with all the cooperation he showed you and Calhoun and Stott over the course of 20 years of answering all your questions, meeting with you, coming to your office, correct?
Incorrect. Whenever you're trying to apprehend a fugitive wanted for a violent crime, which is murder, then you're going to go in the most tactical force used, and that's to ensure the safety on both sides of law enforcement and the civilians that we're trying to obtain.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to say that the officers were doing anything wrong. I was going to say if he was uncooperative at that time, it was inconsistent with all the cooperation he had shown you and Stott and Calhoun and Kelly.
Again, lawyer, you are not going to get him to say anything positive about Chris. Let it go. Be like Frozen. Be like Elsa. For the love of God, let it go.
You know, anybody else who we've been interviewed by with over the years.
So based on the way you framed your question, inconsistent mean that he hid in the cupboard?
Oh my God. I know who this detective reminds me of. It's B. Ivory Lamar from freaking the Theodore Edgecombe case. Swear to goodness, I understand that you think you're a paralegal or a lawyer. I get it too. I sometimes pretend that I know legal law too. That being said, I'm not on a witness for a murder trial trying to, go over here and Johnny Cochran for lawyers. What? Both of you are annoying as you are both as useful as tits on bulls. I hope you both get stubbed in the toe today, allegedly in Minecraft, because you are annoying me.
Cupboard, and he did not hide when we went to go talk to him, but he did hide when he was when they arrived for his arrest. That's correct. He did hide when that arrest happened, and he did speak with us in person.
Yeah, and he had voluntarily given pubic hair to Calhoun.
Correct.
He had voluntarily given other hair samples at other times he was requested, correct?
Correct, and also...
My question was just a yes or no. He also gave DNA evidence when requested, correct? Buccal swabs.
That is correct.
He also, there was the luminol was used in his house, correct?
Correct. 3 years after the incident, though, and the house had been remodeled. So
all those were done in a cooperative manner. Some you had to get a search warrant for, but others he did in a cooperative manner.
So the last incident that you're referring to is the luminol. A search warrant had to be obtained. So I don't know. I don't have any direct knowledge of interaction at that time that Christopher had with the detectives performing that search warrant.
Well, he wasn't even living there when the luminol was given out.
Okay, so that answers the question. He didn't.
And also, during the course of the questioning by Mr. Fawcett here, you repeatedly talked about things that you found important, correct?
Correct.
Did you find it important that the pubic hair that he gave to the officers and that was tested was not shown to be consistent with what was found in the bags?
All DNA is important, but also I had to keep in mind that this case was older. Also, I got to keep in mind that the condition of the body parts that were found, and also over time, those things fade. So we're going to do it just to check the boxes and make sure we're going to cross our T's and dot our I's. But also in the back of my mind, I do know that the DNA was going to be compromised because it was compromised.
Wait, so by your logic, whether the DNA matches or doesn't matches, he's still guilty. Now, call me crazy, but I don't think I think that's what we call, confirmation bias.
pubic hair was analyzed and was found to be not consistent with what was found in the bag.
So the way I remember the report saying it was dissimilar, and also pubic hairs and hairs degrade over time, and that's the way the report read. By the time this particular item was tested, years had passed it. So over time, DNA does degrade, and pubic hairs and DNA items such as that will degrade.
And you know from the other officer who was with you earlier today and sitting outside that he had done DNA from what was found on the bag, and all of that came back negative.
Are you referring to Detective Stein?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Detective Stein and myself, we did work on this case earlier, and he was definitely a big part of collecting that DNA for further testing.
And it came back as not being consistent with Mr. Wolfenbarger's DNA.
That's correct.
Okay. And you know about the paint chips that were found inside the bag that didn't match anything in the house.
That's correct, but also at the time when they did serve the search warrant at the house had been remodeled, that particular area had been remodeled, so it was not gonna be uncommon that those paint chips were gonna be dissimilar to one another.
Right. So do I gather that all the evidence that exonerates him, that shows that he's not the person who perpetrated the crime, you consider to be insignificant?
That's incorrect. If you're referring to just physical evidence in that manner, no, but you still have other evidence that goes in line and testimonies that go in line with this case.
I'm just asking about the physical evidence. You downplay the significance of all of that, don't you?
Can never downplay physical evidence. Physical evidence is important, but what you have to keep in mind that over time, physical evidence degrades. And this case is a prime example of that.
You know that cadaver dogs were sent out to the house, correct?
Okay, I heard of an incident. I don't have any direct knowledge of cadaver dogs or APD using any cadaver dogs.
Okay. There's no evidence of, first of all, there was no saw found in the house or in the house where he was arrested years later, correct?
No, the only reference to a saw is when Christopher admitted that he was in possession of, or he was accused of being in possession of while he was let go from his job.
Right. There's no evidence where the dismemberment occurred.
Absolutely. There's no evidence where it could have occurred anywhere.
Could have happened anywhere, with anyone, with anything. We've got the man right here. Anyone find anything wrong with that calculation?
When you were questioning Chris in the 2021 that we listened to, you asked him to say who he thought had killed his wife, correct?
I believe we asked him what did he think happened.
Right. And he responded, of course, he initially said the family, correct? Her family, her parents.
Correct. He wanted.
And then he said, he then said, but listen, I'm just speculating, correct?
Well, we have to go in order. To answer the question, he pointed all the blame to the father and the family. And what he's referring to when he's saying speculating, he's speculating on different parts of the interview and different parts of the statement that he made.
Yeah.
He stopped at speculation station. Well, aren't you kind of there too with
1 second, Your Honor.
Sure.
DNA is not a thing now? And, well, I mean, if it's there or if it's not there, he's still guilty. You're both insufferable and, oh, you're both insufferable. All right, we've got the main juxtaposition of this man's stuff.
Shepard, you were testifying as to
No, I'm not listening to Slow McSlow. I'm making an executive decision. I do not trust this detective. Ooh, let's see. Ooh, now Angry Short Lawyer is back.
Thank you.
The right-hand column is the total rainfall for the month. For the month, what was the total rainfall?
Can you point to the item that you have circled?
Is the total.
That's what you're saying? Okay, the item that you have,
For that day.
Sorry.
okay, item that you have circled is 0.27. What type of measurement is this though? Is this in inches, millimeters? That's why I don't feel comfortable trying to interpret this.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is what made you tell?
Oh, for God's sake. Is this in inches or... All right. This is too much. The stupid is not happening. Hagatha the leg says no more stupid.
About 5 minutes or so. We'll get you back in here as quick as we can.
Oh.
Thank you. State with call, Dr. Mary Beth Hoptel.
Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may have seen on the screen as you were coming in that Dr. Hoptel is on, she's testifying by Zoom. She's on the screen. The parties have agreed for her to testify by Zoom, and I'm just going to instruct you that you should evaluate her testimony the same as you would a witness who is physically here in person. Deputy, sorry, will you please come back and swear Dr. Hoptel? Thank you. If you stand at the podium, she can.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to the testimony that you're about to give is the
Where did they find the principal from Kindergarten Cop? This is amazing. I love her.
truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state and spell your full name for the court, please.
My name is Dr. Mary Beth Hoptel, Hauptle.
Thank you, ma'am. You may lower your hand. Mr. Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Hoptel, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Dr. Hoptel, what state do you live in now?
I live in Florida.
Okay. And what do you do for a living?
Well, I am retired from the field of medical legal death investigation as well as forensic odontology.
Okay. When did you retire?
I retired in October of 1996.
And prior to that date, where did you work?
Where did I work?
Yes, ma'am.
I worked for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in downtown Atlanta.
And what was your job there?
My job, I wore two hats. My job in this case was as the medical legal investigator. I took the telephone call that came in from the police department on the finding of remains, but I am also a forensic dentist.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, your first job, well, your first hat is as an investigator. Could you please tell the jury what you would typically do as an investigator, how you receive some training on that, and how long have you been doing that for?
Well, I had pretty significant training in medical legal death investigation from the people in St. Louis and some people in Washington, D.C. And so I was trained that I am, as an investigator, the person who goes to the scene and evaluates the circumstances, evaluates the decedent, and takes pictures for the purpose of serving as or for the medical examiner in the case. I have to write up a report of my findings, and it's to the medical examiner that I write up what I find.
Okay. And how many years experience did you have at that?
At the time of this case, this was what, in 99?
Yes.
Okay, I was trained, let's see. I received my training prior to being hired at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, and that was in October of 1996.
Okay. And you also said you wore a different hat as a forensic dentist. Is there a name for your specialty?
Yes, I'm a forensic dentist. I'm the girl they call in when perhaps the DNA in the case is not of good enough quality to do a comparison check, or if the decedent doesn't have fingerprints, so they're not in any system to understand who they are. So they call in a forensic dentist because teeth can withstand all kinds of conditions. They can outlast fire, and they're just impervious to the elements. So my job is to examine the remains, take x-rays of the remains, and then to compare those x-rays to x-rays of whomever law enforcement thinks the person might be.
How does one get to be trained to be a forensic? Is there a special name for your special dentistry? Odontology?
It's forensic odontology. And I took numerous courses from 1991, 1992, 1993. I'm a dentist. I have been a dentist since 1984, but I was a hygienist before I became a dentist. So I've been looking at a lot of mouths and a lot of x-rays.
So you've been a,
Oh, if there is ever a job that skeeves me out, and I have the best hygienist at the dentist I go to, so shout out to all the hygienists, but as a job that would squeak Mo out the most, it would either be dentist or hygienist. Yeah. So thank you for doing what you're doing because because I would not be responsible for my reaction being near all that drill sound all the time.
you've been a dentist since you graduated from dental school in 1984?
Yeah.
Where from?
From Loyola University in Chicago.
And when you graduate from dentist, does that mean you're automatically a dentist?
No, you have to pass a national board exam. So although the DDS part, Doctor of Dental Surgery, is the diploma I received from Loyola, we all had to pass this national board exam. And if you didn't pass the exam, you waited around till the next time it was given and you took it then in hopes that you passed it.
Did you pass that exam?
Yes.
And that's how you became a licensed dentist?
That's right.
Now, at that time, were you just a general dentist?
Yeah.
Did you?
Wilson, forgive me for interrupting, but if you could come here, please, and Mr. Dermott, or Ms. Silver, long way.
Is going on here? This dentist seems a little scattered, but she might be in full retirement brain, you know, and forgot kind of the order she's supposed to give her kind of testimony in, because it seems like the lawyer is really having to lead her in kind of the perfunctory, you know, this is my specialty, this is how I got here.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Your Honor. You said that you were a specialist in forensic odontology. Well, how does one get to be a forensic odontologist?
The way to do this is I was fortunate, faculty members of mine, both for dental hygiene school and dental school, trained at Walter Reed Medical Institution in forensic dentistry. So you have to take lots of weeks of courses, mostly in pathology, mostly in radiology.
And what is your main purpose as a forensic odontologist?
My main purpose is to identify individuals who are visually not recognizable. So if somebody's burned beyond recognition or skeletal remains are found in the woods, that's the time you have to call a forensic dentist.
And how is it that is a unique field that you can help in? Well, I mean, what are you looking for when you're trying to identify someone?
I'm looking to find that the x-rays that I've taken of the decedent, if they compare identically with the x-rays of the person before they died, then there's no question that this is who I think they are. So it's a matter of comparing before death radiographs to after death radiographs.
And how many times have you done that in your career?
Oh my. I don't know that I'd be able to answer that accurately. It's in the hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
And do you go through a specialty type exam to become a forensic odontologist?
No, it's the courses taken that matter. And then I also became a member of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences and the American Society of Forensic Odontology. And that's where you get together with fellows, your peers. So I can learn from a case that happened in 1979.
Holy crap, those symposia are swinging. Those forensic odontologists, you get a couple Mai Tais in them, and it's all molars and canines and craziness.
When faculty members identified the dead from a major air crash at O'Hare International Airport. I knew how they had done it. And when I realized you could do that, because I love mystery so much, I knew that that was a field for me.
Ma'am, have you ever been declared as an expert in the field of forensic odontology?
Yes, I've testified numerous times.
Have you ever been declared in Fulton County, Georgia as an expert in forensic odontology?
Say that again?
Have you been declared as an expert in the field of forensic odontology in Fulton County? To testify?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender Dr. Hoptel as an expert in the field of forensic odontology.
No objection.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the case of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, I am.
How did you first learn of this case?
I actually am the one who took the phone call from the police that had arrived on scene and informed me that there were remains of a human being's skull or head had been found by the side of the road. So I took the phone call, and then I grabbed the medical examiner, and we both went to the site.
Okay, do you remember what date that was?
Say that again?
Do you remember what date that was? When was that?
Oh, well, I don't remember when it was. It was 1999 at some point. I don't remember the exact date.
And you said the medical examiner accompanied you?
Again, no one in Georgia remembers a date, a time. It was February, last leap year. Mars was in retrograde. Mercury was in, forward tilt. We have no idea what time things are. I'm glad she narrowed down the year.
Accompanied you?
Yes, this was 1998, and it was Dr. Robert Parker was the medical examiner. So we both drove to where the remains had been found.
Did Dr. Parker regularly accompany you to crime scenes?
Only if I asked him, yes.
Okay. Who else was with you other than Dr. Parker?
Say this again?
Who else was with you other than Dr. Parker?
Well, the Atlanta Police Department, their whole crime scene unit, and members of the GBI were there. Investigators were there also because they were interested. This head that had been found might be associated with the case. They were investigating from Twiggs County, where they had, I think they had a corpse and they did not have the decedent's head. So they were really hoping that this would be the head that belonged to their torso, so to speak. So there were a lot of investigators there, not just myself and Dr. Parker.
What was the first thing you did when you arrived at the scene?
I examined the area, I examined where the head was, and then I took pictures myself.
And can you describe that scene when you first walked up to it? What did you see?
What I saw was, and this is badly decomposed, so you have to pardon me because it's out of sort, so to speak, but this, and therefore I knew it had been in a black bag before it had rolled out or been brought out by a German Shepherd dog. It looked like a head with its neck down on the street, and it was very deep green color.
What did that mean to you?
Say it again?
What did that coloration mean to you?
Oh, I knew that it had actually been cooking in this bag because the bag was plastic and black. So I knew this was not recent. This didn't happen last night.
Objection. She has been can we approach?
Sure.
Sure.
And actually, the defense is going to make a point here that she's been tendered as a forensic odontologist expert, not a medical examiner expert. So while she might have this, medical examiner, they had only really tendered her as a forensic odontologist, not as, a medical examiner. So her opining about it cooking and things like that, which, reality, but hope no one's eating lunch. And then all of this is something that I think that the defense is well upset about, but also it does confirm because the state lost the video or claimed they didn't lose or there was never a video of a dog bringing the head out. So the fact that she mentioned a German Shepherd is corroborating evidence that there might have been a video with the dog bringing the head out, in evidence at one point.
Dr. Halpto, could you see what condition was the skin in when you saw the skull?
It was terribly decomposed.
Okay, and did you see any of it? Was there anything of evidentiary value left on the skull itself?
No, I wouldn't say so.
All right. Could you see any of the bone of the skull?
Well, I could see underlying bone. It was just this green, decomposed flesh attached to it.
Okay, and did Dr. Parker examine the skull at the scene?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
So there was no way to tell whether this was a male or a female. This was a badly degraded.
This is a non-responsive answer. This narrating is, there was no question.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Sustained.
Thank you. I'll move on. Now, do you recall whether or not there were any businesses near where the skull was discovered?
Have I ever what?
Do you recall if there were businesses near where the skull was discovered?
Yes.
And what kind of businesses were there?
Wow. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I think there was a guy that had a yard of some kind. I don't think it was a junkyard. I'm not sure. But there was a railroad across the street from where the skull lay.
Okay. Do you recall if there was anything else do you recall if there was anything else of significant found at the scene?
Yeah, the bag, there was a black bag that the skull had likely rolled out of. There was a German Shepherd dog that had been instrumental in this, and that's understandable.
Dr. Hoptel.
Dr. Hoptel, can you hear me? This is Judge Krause. Sorry, it's one of the limitations of the technology that sometimes there's a delay. There's an objection, so if you'll stop speaking for a moment while I deal with the objection.
Can we approach her?
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Dr. Hoptel, who would have been in charge of securing evidence at the scene, evidence of the skull and other things at the scene? Would that have been you?
Yeah, it might have been me, or it might have been a colleague of mine.
And do you recall how long you and Dr. Parker were on the scene?
No, I don't recall how long it was.
After you completed your duties on the scene, what did you do next?
Ask me that again?
After you completed your duties at the scene, what did you do next?
Okay, then I went back to the office, brought Dr. Parker back, and started to write up my report.
And was there do you know if there was a formal autopsy of the skull and whatever evidence was found?
Yes, there was a formal autopsy of the skull performed, definitely.
And where would that have been performed?
Say this again?
Where would that have been performed?
At the Fulton County Medical Examiner's office.
And do you know when that autopsy?
Denise, take care of yourself. And I'm glad that you recognize this might not be the part for you. And thank you for doing that, service to everyone, regardless of personal cost, and giving them dignity and respect when you found them. So have a good rest of your day. And thank you so much for what you did for other people.
Occurred.
I'm not understanding.
Do you know when that autopsy would have occurred?
Would I have known when it was to occur, or did it occur? It would have been that afternoon or the following day.
Thank you. Who was the first person that law enforcement thought this might be the head of? You understand what I'm asking you?
Yeah, ask me that again, because I don't know.
Did you review dental records to try to determine whether or not this was the skull of people that were coming in?
I don't understand.
Okay. What did you do first to the skull in your duties?
In my duties, I just examined the skull's dentition. Now,
what did you do after that?
What did I do after that, or no, during that?
Did you take an x-ray?
No, I didn't take x-rays. the morgue staff did.
Are you familiar with NCIC, the term NCIC, what NCIC is?
Yes, I am.
And did you utilize that at all?
Yes. So when I did my examination, which is like a dentist doing an exam in their office, I render a chart. So I write down the features that are present in this mouth, going from the upper right, going all the way around, upper teeth, lower teeth. And on this NCIC form, I'm writing down what I found. The most significant finding was a filling on a single tooth, a single molar in the skull.
Can you hold on just a second?
This is, they should have worked out with her, and it does seem like she's a bit hard of hearing. So I don't know if she doesn't have her sound turned up loud enough. But this is just maddening.
So I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 77.
That's my dental chart of the decedent.
And is that the documentation that you recorded at the medical examiner?
Yes, it is.
And was that an accurate picture of what you found after your examination?
Absolutely. You see this filling on the lower.
Hang on.
Right.
Sorry, Dr. Hoptel, forgive me for interrupting. You've shown her the document. She's identified the document.
Yes.
But now she's testifying about what's in the document.
I know, Your Honor. I was going to ask to admit State 77.
Any objection, Mr. McDermott?
No objection.
Exhibit 77 is admitted.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Now, what I'm doing is pointing at something on the chart. Is that what was significant for you?
Yeah, that's a silver amalgam filling on the chewing surface of tooth number 31, a lower second molar.
And
there were no other fillings. There were no other missing teeth. So we delight in this because it doesn't take a whole lot of rocket science to compare dental charts to this one.
And what you would do is compare dental charts that came in and see if they match, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And or x-rays.
Okie dokie.
Do you recall how many unknown people, do you recall how many records you were asked to identify?
Oh, no, I have no idea. They were just people galore wanting to know if this was somebody of interest to them. So I got several calls from people over time.
Did she just say people galore and my head went to the Bond villain? Or was that in Bond or Austin Powers? Anyway, this trial is this Georgia, I'm gonna pray for you.
Did you finally receive any dental records from, excuse me just a minute. I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 33. I'm trying to hold it up as well as I can.
You're going to have to turn that one over. It's upside down. There you go. So show this to the jury, please.
Well, not yet.
Oh my
Not yet, because it's not in evidence yet.
This?
Okay. Do you recognize those records?
Yes.
And what are those records?
What?
What are those records? What are those records? Do you recall what those records were?
No. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, did you recognize those records when I showed them to you?
Yes.
What are they?
They were dental records from a person named Melissa Wolfenbarger.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'd move to tender States 33.
Mr. McDermott? 33 is admitted.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Your Honor, I'd ask permission to publish number States 33.
Permission granted.
Thank you. And Dr. Hopto, what was significant about those records that you received, comparing them to the records of the remains found?
The most significant thing is that silver amalgam filling on tooth number 31. That would be the patient's lower right.
And did it match?
Well, but did she also do x-rays? Because many people could have a single, filling.
What you found from on the skull?
Yes, it did. And the fact that it was the only restoration in the skull is to be made note of.
So after comparing the dental charts and the records of the dental charts from Dr. Brantley, and then the dental charts from the Fulton County medical examiners, were you able to determine, based on a reasonable scientific degree of certainty, whether or not those were from the same person?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And after you made that identification, what else did you do?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
After you made the identification, what did you do next?
After I made the identification, I informed the medical examiner, the medical examiner on the case.
Do you remember?
To let her know that I knew who this was, and that this was an unequivocal finding of mine.
And what medical examiner did you notify?
That would be Dr. Carol Terry. I believe she assumed the case from Dr. Parker way back in the early days.
And after you did that identification, what did you do? What did you do next in this case?
I don't know what I did next. I instructed people to notify the next of kin of this lady's death.
Okay. Did you ever do anything to the skull itself while in the Fulton Medical Examiner's office? Did you ever do anything?
No, I did look at how the skull had been prepared by the forensic anthropologist.
Okay.
So
Well, I don't need you to talk about that. May I just have a moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
Ooh, how loud. What? Let's...
Do you remember what year you made the actual identification of the skull?
what year the identification was made?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, the case was in 1998, so I don't know. It had to be after that.
Okay. Was it a long period of time after that?
This expert's like, well, the case started in 1998, so I knew that we did the exam after. Nancy Grace, move over. We've got a new true crime queen.
Yes, because we only had the skull, and then there was another case that came into the office, and this was bagged remains from also somebody that had dismembered a body and put into bags. I wasn't the lead investigator on the case, but the investigator on the case, because of the similarity in the way these remains were bagged, the DNA from those remains.
Hang on, just ma'am. Dr. Hotto?
Actually.
Hang on. Yes.
Let me ask you a different question. Let me go back to the scene of the discovery of the head. Could you describe the condition of the... Did you make reports on this case?
Yes.
And would it possibly help you to refresh your recollection to review your report as to when you made the discovery?
Yes.
Okay.
Can y'all come here for just a second?
This judge is like, this is a cluster of a cluck. I'm going to need y'all to stop making my courtroom look like a circus. We're so close to almost getting all the way done with day 4. Come on. My ADHD is like, I cannot, I want to get this done. I want to achieve this goal, but you guys are killing me with being
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Your
ridiculous.
Honor. You wrote a report. You wrote several reports in this case, correct?
Yes.
And if you wrote a report that stated that you identified the skull as belonging to Miss Melissa Wolfenbarger on the 14th day of March of 2003, would that be accurate?
Sure.
May I just have one more moment?
Sure.
Nothing further.
Mr. McDermott, questions for this witness?
Just a few.
I'd like to talk about both. I guess we can start with.
Ms. Hopdell,
Good afternoon.
can you hear me fine?
I can, yes.
Okay. Do you remember this chart that was shown to you a while ago that you made? This was based on the skull?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of that? Or are you dependent upon my copy?
No. I have a copy somewhere in my file.
Okay, but not accessible? You don't have one accessible right now?
Say that again?
Do you have one easily accessible right now that you could read from?
It doesn't matter because what I'm seeing you hold up is exactly what I know I made. Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm going to try to publish my digital version of that. Is that okay on Zoom?
Or is it Exhibit 77 that was admitted into evidence already?
That's 77. Yeah, it's
Go for it.
And we all know this is going to go as smoothly as possible.
Sure.
Hold on. Version of the chart that you made based on the skull. Do you remember noting that there were class 5 caries in tooth number 6 and tooth number 11?
Yeah.
You don't remember that?
No, I do remember that, and it's written on the chart.
Oh, good. Well, that simplified matters. What is a class 5 carie?
That would be a cavity that was at the base of the gum line. That's class 5. The amalgam silver filling.
Okay, I want to stop you. I didn't ask about the amalgam yet.
Yeah, that's tooth number 31. That's a class 1 amalgam.
Okay, thank you. Are class 5 caries more common in children or adults?
Adults.
Okay. Now, can you bring up the other exhibit, the chart from Dr. Brantley? Now, I'm going to share with you the chart from Dr. Brantley briefly.
For the record, is that Exhibit 33 that was offered into evidence by the state?
Yes.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Can we go up to the other part of that? The records part? Okay. And do we have a date on that document?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, well, number one, you can see,
There you go.
and this is a document that purports to be Melissa Patton's dental.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what is her listed date of birth?
Date of birth, it says it looks like 9/9/70.
Okay. And is there a date on which this medical record was created?
I don't know, this isn't my creation.
Well, do you see one on the document currently?
I'm not seeing it, but maybe.
No, I'm not looking at the whole page though. I'm only seeing
And can we
from,
scroll? There's another part that has some handwritten scribblings. See if we can take a chance on those. It's the next page. There you go. Now you'll have to rotate again, I'm afraid. Great, you're a pro. Can you see the chart part on the right that has some scribblings on it?
yeah, but I can't discern what's written.
Can you make out the bottom row, the date?
No,
Okay.
nope, I can't.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. You said that you positively identified the skull as Melissa's based on these charts?
No, based on my examination of the remains, okay, coupled with x-rays that were taken, and those were compared, and this chart and the chart that I made were all compared to what we had in the examiner's office.
And what did you do with the x-rays when you were done with them?
I didn't do anything with them. They go with the file.
So there should be x-rays in the
They stay with
file? There should be x-rays in the file then?
Yeah, yes, if protocol was served. This is a good question for the medical examiner, not myself.
Oh, thank you.
Georgia, yet again, what the hell? Could you please do better, Georgia? Do better.
Are you aware that there were other agencies looking for the victim in this case?
Oh, yes.
What were some of those agencies that you were aware of?
Well, the GBI, for one, they were looking for a match to a decedent they had in Twiggs County. And then there were calls made from New York and all over the place.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Dr. Hoptel?
Yes.
I'm sure, can you see the document that I'm holding up?
Yes, I can.
Are you familiar with that document?
Yeah, but it looks like it's upside down.
Sorry.
The love of Cheetos.
Did I get it right?
Yes, I can see it.
And what does that describe?
Hold it up again if you would. Okay, that tells you, shows you what the scene looked like.
Did you make that drawing?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, state what, and was that an accurate representation of what you saw that day? Was that an accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yeah, yes. As best I could. I mean, there were pictures taken.
Your Honor, I would like to tender State 78.
Okay, I have something on the list y'all gave me as 32.
I don't believe it's the same.
Okay. 78. Any objection, Mr. McDermott?
No objection.
78 is admitted.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. McDermott, questions on those questions?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hoptel. You are free to log out of the Zoom. You are excused as a witness.
Thank you very much. And thank you for letting me serve you.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Aw, she's so sweet, but so incredibly
Mr. Fawcett
talky.
or Ms. Hilton, state may call its next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Dr. Gilbo.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fawcett, there are some exhibits from a prior witness up here if you wouldn't mind grabbing those. Thank you, sir.
applause.
Sir, would you mind stating your full name for the court, please?
Mark Gilbo, Guilbeau.
And if you would just scoot up to the microphone just a tiny bit. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Fawcett.
Okay, Dr. Gilbo, can you tell the court where you're currently employed?
I work at the Clayton County Medical Examiner's Office.
All right, what do you do with them?
I'm a senior investigator.
Okay. And specifically, what is your role with the Clayton County Medical Examiner's Office?
Medical legal death investigation.
All right. Prior to that, have you been employed anywhere else?
Yes, sir.
And where is that?
Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
And what did you do with the Fulton County ME's office?
I was first an investigator and forensic anthropologist, and I got a promotion to senior investigator, and I still did their anthropology work.
Okay. And can you describe and go over your training and education for the jury?
Yeah, I got a bachelor's degree in anthropology from the University of Southwestern Louisiana in 1986. I soon started at the University of Tennessee, where I got my master's and my PhD, all of them in anthropology.
Okay. And after receiving your PhD in anthropology, what did you do career-wise after that?
I started a job at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
Okay. How many total years did you work with Fulton County?
Just shy of 25 years.
Okay. And did you continue to work in the field of anthropology itself?
Yeah, I've been a consultant with the DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office for 20 odd years.
Okay. What is anthropology?
Anthropology is basically the study of people, human beings, whether it be their culture, how they make a living, anything about them, in addition to their history, archaeology, and their physical biology, as in physical anthropology, which is the biological anthropology that I studied.
Okay. And specifically the biology anthropology that you studied, what specific?
Chat, does anyone remember the name of the judge? I know she took over the YSL case, but I cannot remember her name to save my life. Judge Krause. Yes. You are correct, JKD Buck, because I remember when she was trying to get Dr. Dentist to be quiet.
Topics that you cover in biology anthropology?
Since biological anthropology covers everything to deal with human bodies, there's a subsection of it called forensic anthropology, which basically applies the knowledge we have of human beings to a legal setting so that we can determine what we can basically from a human skeleton.
Okay. And throughout your time in Fulton County, as well as your time that you're currently employed in Clayton, did you participate in ongoing training?
Yes.
Was that on a yearly basis?
No, we don't really have yearly training. When I was at Fulton County, we had on and off training dictated by the budget. But yeah, I have been to training since I graduated.
Do you yourself occasionally train other individuals in this field?
I give lectures and talks to different groups periodically.
And as it relates to the forensic anthropology itself, how does that field in particular assist you with your work at the medical examiner's office?
Whenever we find an individual that is unidentified, that is, can't be identified through traditional means, that is, we can't look at the person and determine who they are, if they're decomposing or skeletonized, burned, oftentimes a forensic anthropologist will come in to analyze the skeleton itself, and we can develop a basic profile of the individual to try to help the authorities identify the person.
Okay. And how many times would you say you've had an opportunity to examine, say, a skeleton as you testified to this afternoon?
When I was at Fulton, we had probably 2 or 3, sometimes 4 cases a year. So let's say 3 cases a year for 24 years. So you're talking 75 odd cases. And then I was a consultant at the GBI for 10 years in anthropology, and I looked at another 35 or 40, so 150 or so cases.
Okay. And when you conduct an examination of, say, a skeletal remains, for instance, what types of things are you able to determine?
From a skeleton, if we have a complete skeleton, we can determine the ethnicity of the individual, that is, whether white, black, Native American, the height of the individual, the sex, the race, ethnicity, race, sex, stature. We can't determine weight, but we can tell how tall you were.
Okay. And types of determinations that you just testified to, are those the same types of determinations that you made in your different examples as to how many times you've examined skeletal remains at Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office?
Right. I mean, occasionally we would have a whole skeleton, but oftentimes we would only have one individual bone that was found. The majority of our cases were non-human. A bone would be found, it would be brought in, and I could look at it and tell them human, non-human. When it was determined to be non-human, that was the end of it. There was no case.
Okay. Your Honor, this time the state moved to tender in evidence Dr. Mark Gilbo as an expert in forensic anthropology.
No objection.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, Dr. Gilbo, when you testified, when you were employed in the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, did you assist in an investigation into the death or the cause of death of Melissa Wolfenbarger.
Yes.
And what was the nature of your assistance with that case itself?
Basically looking at some of the skeletal remains that were found on apparently 2 separate occasions.
Okay. You were aware of the skull being located in April of 99?
That was the first thing that was found.
All right. And you're also aware of the extremities being located in June of 99?
Yes, sir.
All right. And can you tell the court what happens to a body or a set of remains once it comes in? How is that identified from, say, any other case in the medical examiner's office?
As a case comes in, it's assigned a specific case number so that we can keep track of it. In this particular case, since remains were found at 2 separate times, we had one case number for the first piece of remains and then a separate case number for the second set of remains. And we're not like the medical records at the hospital where they can join them together under one number. They say it's 2 separate sets of remains, even though in the reports it'll say associated, these 2 cases are associated with each other.
Okay. And are you aware whether or not that happened in this particular case, in Melissa Wolfenbarger's case?
Right. At a certain point, they determined that all of these remains were from the same person.
Okay. Do you recall what the 2 different numbers associated with the skull that came in April and then the remains in June of 99? You familiar with that case number that was assigned?
I don't remember specifically, but the first case number was like in the 700 range, and then I think the second case number was in like the 900 range.
Okay.
So there were approximately 200 cases that occurred between the finding of the skull and then the other remains.
And does the medical examiner's office document their findings and investigation in reports?
Yes, sir.
If you were to review a report from the medical examiner's investigation, would that refresh your recollection as to the numbers that were assigned to the skull and remains of Ms. Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you this front of the report. You can look at the numbers and see if that refreshes your recollection as to those 2 different case numbers.
Yes, sir. That looks like them.
Okay. And what are those case numbers?
99-0798 and 99-0990.
Okay. And what happens after, say, a body or remains are accepted by the medical examiner's office?
Typically, when remains come in, they'll be stored in our cooler until the pathologist, typically in the morning, will come in and the technicians will get the remains out for the pathologist to perform their examination, whether it be an autopsy or whatever may be necessary.
Okay. And are you aware of whether or not that happened in this case?
As far as I'm aware, it did happen. Yes, sir.
Okay. Talk about the distinction between, say, an anthropologist such as yourself conducting an examination of remains versus, say, a pathologist.
Okay. The pathologist is basically looking at, more often than not, a fully fleshed person. The point at which the body is too decomposed for them to do everything that they need to do, oftentimes they'll call in an anthropologist, and we will prepare the body, basically examine the skeleton at that point.
Okay. All right. At any point, did you get an opportunity to view the remains in the course of your investigation with ME's office, the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with some of the efforts in place to try to make an identification?
Right. Yeah, there were quite a few sets of dental records that I remember that had come in, people that were missing, and at first all we had was the skull. So teeth were the main thing that we were able to use to try to make an ID. So there were numerous sets of dental records that came in for us to try to make an ID.
Okay. And what is that process in your role as an anthropologist? What methods would you use to try to figure out who this was?
Well, as far as the dental records, we let our forensic dentist do that part of it. But for the rest of the skull, there's certain things that we can use. There's a sinus in your frontal bone that if you take an x-ray of your skull from front to back, you can compare a x-ray before death with an x-ray of the skull, and you can basically overlay one and the other, and they'll match basically almost as good as a fingerprint.
Okay.
So, but you have to have somebody to match it up with.
Was that an issue in terms of conducting identification, not having a basis to compare it to?
Right, yeah. There's no big database out there that you can just put information in and it spits out an answer.
All right. At any point, did you attempt to make any types of reconstructions?
I did not, but at some point, I believe they did do a reconstruction, probably having it sent out to the GBI to have the skull reconstructed. As far as putting clay on the skull to make it look like an actual person's face, that's one of the things that we do at a certain point in the investigation.
All right.
Pow wow, pow wow.
Grass.
That's correct, Judge.
Okay, can you tell me which ones they are?
Yes. That would be 37, 57, and 61.
57 and 61?
37, 57, and 61.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just remind you again that, as I warned you at the beginning of the trial, that the next series of photographs that you might have inferred will be somewhat graphic, given the nature of what they'll show. So, I'm giving you a moment to brace yourselves. Thank you.
Now, Dr. Gilbo, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibits 37, 57, and 61. Can you open that order? You recognize the images depicted on those exhibits?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, are you able to tell from the photographs themselves where those photographs were taken?
Yeah, this was most likely in the autopsy room at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
Okay. And you've been in that room yourself?
Many times.
All right. And that would have been during that period in when the remains were located? You would have been in the medical examiner's office at that time?
Yes, sir.
You testified as to numbers associated with the case, two numbers in particular for the cases that came in. The case for the skull, right. You said that was 99-0798, and the case assigned to the extremities, it was 99-0990. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. On those images depicted in 37, 57, and 61, do you see anything representative of those numbers that I just read into the record?
Right. On the little tag that's in the photograph, typically that would include the name of the decedent, the date, the case number, and which doctor is assigned to the case.
Okay. Now, is that labeled as your recollection as records would have been kept in the normal course of business at the medical examiner's office during that period that you were there?
Yes, sir. That's how they would keep information in the photograph.
Okay. And your testimony is that you were present in the office at the time that Melissa Wolfenbarger's remains were being investigated?
Yes, sir.
And what work in particular did you do on this case itself, if you can recall that?
Basically, I looked at the skull. I can't remember exactly who cleaned it off, but the skull was cleaned of tissue, and then it was presented to me to do an analysis, and the skull had been autopsied. So in order to do my measurements, we do a combination of looking at the skull and measurements. Looking at it is one thing. Measurements, you hope that you have a complete skull. Well, since it had been autopsied, the top of the skull had been removed. So I had to reapproximate the top of the skull on the remainder of the cranium with some wax as best I could put it back together. So after that was done, I did do my measurements.
Okay. And what do you mean by measurements?
We have specialized tools that we have a certain set of measurements that we can do that we then plug into a discriminant function formula, and it will determine first whether the individual is male or female, and then also a slightly separate set of measurements will determine the ethnicity of the individual based on people in the United States, Caucasian, African American, or American Indian.
Okay. And can you say, based off of your recollection and your viewing of those exhibits depicted in States Exhibit 37, 57, and 61, that those are the photographs that were taken at or around the autopsy of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, sir.
And those are the photographs that were taken at the time you were employed with the medical examiner's office?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time the state moved to tender in evidence States Exhibits 37, 57, and 61.
Mr. Chairman, 37, 57, and 61 are admitted.
Okay. Permission to publish?
Permission granted.
All right, for the record, Your Honor, I'm publishing States Exhibit 37. Okay. Can you see that exhibit on the screen, Dr. Gilbo?
Yes, sir.
All right. What are we looking at?
This is a cervical vertebrae, a vertebrae in your neck.
All right. And is there anything of significance about this particular vertebrae?
The surface Can I
If you
stand
want to
up?
get up and, yes, you can.
Okay. This is the canal where the spinal cord goes. This would be the back of your neck. This would be the front of your neck. This is the body of the vertebrae, and these are the facets that allow you to move here, turn your head. But you can't spin it around. You can look from side to side with the flexibility that this allows. Now, this surface and this.
Oh my God, she reminds me of Bernadette from The Big Bang Theory. That being said, if the skull had been cleaned, I would not have a problem with looking at some of the cuts and the things that he's indicating on the anatomy to show how he believes it was a reciprocating saw. But I do understand that, Melissa is still a person who deserves, dignity and respect. And the judge, probably doesn't want those pictures out. But it would be interesting to, maybe on, other chances and not this particular case, but to see kind of how they go step by step. And I do think that Chandler Halderson's case did do that, but we weren't allowed to see the photos, which I completely understand for respect for victims, but it would be interesting to see how they make these determinations.
This surface and this surface has been damaged. Something has cut through this plane of the vertebrae and separated it from the one that was next to it.
Dr. Gilbo, have you at any point studied the effects of, say, saws or mechanical instruments on bones themselves?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
I did a master's thesis on saw marks in bone.
Okay. So is it safe to say you're pretty well versed in the effects of, say, saw and the results of saws on bones?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 57. Let me get this down first. All right.
Objection. Can we approach?
Sure. To be clear, I think based on the sidebar that the objection was withdrawn. Is that fair, Mr. McDermott?
For now.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Bassett.
All right. All right, so for the record, publishing State's Exhibit 57. Now, Dr. Gilbo, if you would mind shutting down when you see, and you see the same, if I can get you,
I'll just ask, you're perfectly fine where you are, but when you do speak, if you'll just try and speak up because you have your back to me and the court reporter. Thank you, sir.
is that the same medical examiner number reference to the report?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what are we looking at here? You can tell that from that photograph.
This is a long bone. I'm not sure which one it is just from this photo, but it's either the shaft of one of the bones of the arm or leg. I can't tell just from this photograph.
And can you see anything else depicted on Exhibit 57 of significance?
Yeah, it appears that this bone was cut with a saw.
Okay. And why do you say that?
There are striations here that are consistent with a saw. There's a groove here that's consistent with a saw blade, and then it's apparently it was cut through up to a certain point, and then the remainder of the bone broke.
Okay.
The whole way through.
All right. If I could have you remain up there, I'm going to show you one more exhibit. Now showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 61. Can you tell the court what we're looking at? Is that a, well, first, yeah. Is that another photograph from the autopsy of Melissa Rothbard?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything of significance that you observed or able to observe on that State's exhibit?
Yeah, this is a cross section of the long bone. So this is a bone that has been cut completely through. And you can see the striations here, This is typically what we see when a saw cuts through an object, in this case, a piece of bone.
Okay, but I mean, you can tell it's a saw. Can you tell it's a reciprocating saw by some measure? Because that kind of is what this all hinges on. The state has made links to the missing, borrowed, or stolen reciprocating saw. So are there different, I know there's different marks because in the Chandler Holderson case, the paleontologist was able to differentiate between, I think, a all directional saw, so it cuts forward and back, and then a unidirectional saw, so when, and then even where kind of the saw had jumped, when you haven't quite gotten a groove in. So I guess I'm wondering if there is a way that he can, I'm sure if I shut up and just let him talk, he would tell me.
Now, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 66. You see that?
Yes, sir.
All right, is that the type of saw that would make the type of marks on there? I'm not asking specific blade,
Right.
But is that the type of instrument that can cause marks depicted on those exhibits?
Yes, sir.
All right.
One moment, Judge.
Sure.
Now, Dr. Gilbo, we're talking about remains from April and June of 1999. Was the medical examiner's office able to observe and notate what appeared to be 2 marks on those bones at that time?
Yes, sir.
So well before 2003, is that safe to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at the point when you got involved in the case, it would have been back in that 99 period when the remains were located?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I have, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. McDermott, questions for this witness?
Yes, ma'am. You referred to the skull as having the flesh cleaned. Is that the process?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
You were nodding. I just want to make the record clear.
Works for me, but only me. Is that the process that it speaks of in the reports of soaking the head in bleach?
Right, that's one of the ways that they use to try to remove some of the flesh from the bone.
I see. And did they use other methods for other of the remains?
Sometimes we will heat up the remains in some water with detergent. We're basically trying to remove the flesh, and heat is one of the ways that we can do that.
I see. You mentioned something about taking measurements of the skull.
Yes, sir.
Is that what's known as the Giles-Elliott discrimination?
That's one of the ways, yes, sir.
Okay. Did you perform that in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You know, I couldn't do that with my glasses. That's kind of a talent.
Yep, that's the
You can say what they are.
okay. That's the graph and the measurements that we take typically.
And the second one?
And the second one is just all my measurements.
There's a lot of measurements in there.
Yes, sir.
How many measurements do you have to take to complete this process?
There's 8 basic measurements, and then for some of the discriminant functions, you don't use all of them, but people smarter than me have figured out how to do this. I just use their method, and we basically plug the measurement into the formula, and it spits out an answer that we can graph on a chart.
And these are the graphs you're speaking of?
That's the graphs, yes,
And the
sir.
graphs tell you whether the head is male or female?
Based on the measurements that are taken, yes,
And
sir.
whether it's a black person or a white person?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know when this method was created?
Oh, a lot of it was based on anatomical collections. They used some of the remains of service people that were killed in the Korean War back in the 40s and 50s, as I can recollect.
Okay. So this is a method that had been around since the 40s and 50s?
As far as I'm aware, yes, sir.
Okay. And based on your conclusions on those calculations, you returned a conclusion that it was a white male skull?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you remember saying at the beginning of your direct examination that one of the functions that you guys perform is that you can develop a basic profile of the individual.
That's correct.
And in this case, you thought the basic profile of the individual was a white male.
That's correct.
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Fawcett, any additional questions?
Yes. Dr. Gilbo, was there any information as to damage to the skull that was recovered, Mr. Wolfenbarger?
Yeah, I think there was some minor damage to the skull just from being out in the field, but then the top of the cranium was removed at the time of the autopsy prior to me being able to look at it.
Okay. And we're talking about the measurements. What are you comparing those?
J.K.D. Buck, if you're still in here, okay, I can understand the top of the skull maybe taking away some features, but you still have the brow bone, which is usually more pronounced in males. You would have a smaller nasal cavity to look at. You'd have maybe a more slimmed down jawline to look at. So while all of hers might have fallen into a more masculine face, you would think that there would still be enough here to maybe get it more right. I mean, I just don't understand how the top of the head or top of the skull, takes away from these different markers. But I'm not a doctorologist. I just play one on YouTube.
What is the standard that you're comparing the measurements to?
The discriminant function was developed by the Giles and Elliott crew, and basically they measured a whole bunch of skulls and then were able to look at certain measurements that were more male and some that were more female. So depending on where the measurements that you took fell in the spectrum, you would classify it either as male or female.
Okay. And what is the purpose of, say, the investigative tool? What does that serve, or what stage does that serve in the investigation process?
We're trying to develop a profile of who we might be looking for, but with human populations, not everybody is the same. So that we're trying to quantify something that removes the human judgment from the equation. Everybody should be able to take a measurement the same. Whereas I can look at something and say that box is square. Well, another person would say, well, that box is a rectangle. So it hopefully removes the judgment part of the equation.
Okay. Well, what is the answer to explain or the explanation for Dr. Gilbo initially determined based on that scale that it was male? So how do we get to that point, and what's the explanation for that?
What we do is done by human beings. We don't know what the answer is. All we can do is take measurements, and whatever the answer comes out with, that's what we go with. In this particular case, it came out, the measurements declared that it was a male, when in fact, in hindsight, it was a female. But as with everything in a biological system, there are some that are slightly different from the others. So there's variability within.
Well, yes, I get that, but this is kind of a keystone of finding the person that matches with this. So if you get someone who's within a certain variable, let's say the plus or minus, shouldn't you do more diagnostic tests just to test? I mean, I don't know if there are them. Look, I'm not a doctorologist, and I'm, like 26 years later quarterbacking, so I don't know what tests were accessible then. So I'm giving this man an incredibly hard time without any knowledge. I am, in fact, a YouTuber.
In human populations. So the combination of the skull being autopsied and possibly that it was into the male range, being a female, it's,
okay,
just one of those things.
And did that contribute in any way to, say, the identification itself?
Yeah, it by us thinking that it's a male, and so we're looking for males, we're not looking for females. So yeah, that was kind of a problem with the identification in the beginning.
Okay, and you're familiar with the name Dr. Joseph Parker?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with where he was conducting his duties as ME at that time?
Yes, sir.
And where was he conducting his duties as ME?
He worked for us at Fulton County. He also worked out at the GBI, and he was also the medical examiner for Bibb County down in Macon.
Okay. And are you aware of a headless corpse that was located, male headless corpse that was located close to Macon during that period of time?
Right. Dr. Parker generally worked on the weekends, and I believe that these remains came in on a Friday. So when he came in on Saturday, this was one of his cases.
Well, J.K.D. Buck, therein lies the problem, because they never found the torso. So for a long time, they were they were kind of not sure as to the gender of these remains. So yeah, if they had had the pelvis, but they did have the femurs. I think they had both legs. They had both arms. I don't know at which point, because it doesn't seem like it was the jaw, or not the joint, not the jaw. It doesn't seem like whoever cut along the joints and actually got some of the long bones with the cut off. So I don't know. Okay, if you're trying to explain to me how everyone's human and you keep putting your glasses like that and then flopping them back on your face, it doesn't give me like the biggest amount of confidence in your ability to be a serious person. And thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate it so much. Good Lord, sir. Again, Georgia, I'm gonna pray for you, and then I'm gonna do mandatory fluoride, lead, and radiation testing in the state when I become president.
So he had just come from Macon, where a body had been found with no head. Well, he shows up the next day and there's a head with no body. So the assumption from the beginning was, well, we're going to see if this head matches this body.
Okay. So early on in the investigation, there was a theory that might be the case.
Right.
All right. And did that contribute, or was that a factor in the overall investigation into determining the ID?
I think it had an influence, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Judge.
Mr. McDermott, anything else?
Well, that's a pretty big damn deal, because you're showing that you're subjective, and that if you want this to be, the answer, you are susceptible to confirmation bias, which we all are. Again, look, when I call out people for being a hypocrite, I am like a big old hypocrite too. We're all hypocritical about something in our lives. They're trying to take a man's freedom away for the rest of his life. I would like you to, exhibit more care with your job. Because you wanted it to be this head to this body, it influenced your measurements and maybe you fudged. Well, that's not good enough if we're trying to take someone else's freedom away. So put your glasses on your eyeballs like they're supposed to be.
Do you remember about what time it was in the United States that we began using DNA testing for identification purposes?
As far as I'm aware, it was maybe the late 80s when it became available.
And it was certainly available in the late 90s, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you wanted to identify who this head belonged to, right?
Yes, sir.
So why was not the first thing that you did preserve DNA?
I looked at the bones, not the tissue. That would have been the prudent thing to do, preserve tissue before anything else is done.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Fassett. Anything else?
Nothing for this witness, Judge.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Your excuse as a witness. Can y'all come here, please?
All right, you guys. So that's the end of, and I will have to edit this title, not day 5, but day 4. We will be on to day 5 next. Now, I may be doing something with Megan Fox tomorrow, and then there will be a couple more deep dive, longer videos where I go over some longer articles that have come out in the true crime genre to start setting up my documentary reviews on true crime dramas starting next week. So Thursdays will kind of be my deep dive, and then something random. Petty Express will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays most of the time. So that's kind of how we're going to roll out and roll forth. And because you guys are here, but I will, put this out on other streams. I have my infusions set up for the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So that entire week, I will probably be doing more videos and not so many live streams, just because I'll be a little bit out of it. The infusions they did seem to work a little bit last time. We're trying to catch it before it goes into fall and it's rainy and yucky outside, because that really bothers my leg. So we're trying to get it before the seasons change. But like a lot of things in medicine and me personally. The cure seems to be just as bad as, the issue. So they always take a lot out of me. But they do seem to help a little bit. So hopefully by getting on a better schedule, they might help and be more effective this time, which would be great because they are not inexpensive. And it's kind of the last thing I can do in Indiana with any kind of stuff for this condition. So we're hoping they will work better this time. Let me see who I can send you guys off to. I think Baker might be doing something. Let's see here. Da-da-da. Mr. Mo is sad. We bought a bunch of steaks to have like for our lunches without the kids, and the grill would not work. So he is trying to cook these really thick steaks, and it was not working. I am going to send you over to Squid Pro Quo. It looks like she is doing federal document updates. Yeah, I know. It's the funniest thing and I guess people like it. Look, I don't particularly like feeling fuzzy and out of it, so it's not a fun thing. I know people enjoy that kind of feeling sometimes, but it's not particularly fun for me. And as having ADHD and kind of liking to fidget, the downtime sucks. Flux is also on, so I am going to send you over to Squid, but Flux is also on, and I think Dolly is also on. So you are free to go wherever in the interwebs you would like to go. I will catch you guys tonight. We are continuing on with the Brian Koberger document dump and looking at his apartment creepy weirdo stuff. So that will be at 6 tonight. So if you'd like to hang out here on my channel, you're welcome to come back. But I'm going to say goodbye and go get some lunch for myself and before the children come. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do it. Bye, you guys. Have a great day.